Welcome back to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we welcome C. Webster Marsh, who is the host of the Lighting Controls podcast, which is a collaboration between Nailed, Webster, Ron, and then Greg and I. And it's inching up to number one, Greg, on our podcast network. I sent out the
Coming in
email
hot.
today, past Get a Grip, surged past Get a Grip on Lighting, and is currently sitting in number two on the technology charts on Podomatic, right behind a podcast that's supported by PBS. So there he is. He's up there at the top. He's past Get a Grip on Lighting, surging past, and he's producing content all over the place. Greg, he speaks about lighting controls, and now he's going to be he's not hosting. He's teaching a lighting controls certification at Lightivation coming up, and it's supported by Nailed, and it's exciting, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. So obviously, Letting Controls podcast and all of Webster Marsh's information will be in the show notes below. You can check it out there. But first of all, Greg, we got to start off easy here, man. We got to go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com.
I know we're going to talk a little bit about controls today, or I assume we're going to, but they make it easy on the control side with their smart loop system. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not a control expert, but I've been able to commission their system, been able to install it in multiple facilities. And you know what? Sometimes they need something fixed or tweaked. I know how to do it. I can go do that. I don't always want to, but I do it. And it's super easy. And I've taught them to do it even at some places. I've had the end user now trained in to be able to commission their system. So controls are awesome. Smart loops. Keystone's got it.
So go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com. Light made easy. And of course, Greg, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, top G's in lighting, all in that organization, man. So if you have light bulbs in a warehouse and you think you're a top G, Greg, you got to join Nailed.
You better. Let's go. We're
Let's
here.
go. And check out Light. I don't know if this is going to be released before Light Fair is, but we're getting close. But I'm going to try to be there. The only people that can stop me is the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Agency. Webster Marsh, welcome to Get a Grip on Lighting.
Thank you.
It's the certification. We're talking about a certification. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of different things that people talk about. You hear a lot about controls, introduction to controls, and this kind of stuff that's out there. We're having an in-person student pays live online and live in person certification coming up. Why do we
Mhm.
need this now as an industry, Webster?
I mean, we've always needed this, but I mean, the thing is that lighting controls are really kind of coming into one of its peak times. We've seen this happen in the past where it goes through these peaks and valleys of interest, but right now there is a huge interest in lighting controls, especially triple LC, luminaire level lighting controls, where each luminaire has a control component inside of it. But that a lot of this is being driven by the rebate programs that are out there because the LED battle has been won. If you were going to buy LEDs, you probably would have already have bought them. So now the focus is going to the next step, which is controls, which is where you get even more energy savings, but also just usability from your system. Okay, fine, you have LEDs, but it's just on off. How do you make that better? How do you get the people in a space to be more comfortable with that lighting? You got to add controls. But what we're seeing is that there's this huge gap, this chasm between people who know of lighting controls and people who are the experts in lighting controls. And what I'm trying to do is fill that chasm up with knowledgeable people because we really do need from all levels. We need the end users to at least have some knowledge of lighting controls. We need sales distribution and representation to be able to help with the sales process and delivery of that product. And then we need skilled people to actually install all of this. So how do we roll out these lighting controls initiatives if we don't have knowledgeable people supporting those initiatives? That's why it's really important. But the in-person part above all else is because lighting controls is so theoretical if you do not see the components in front of you.
It says
It ex-
amen. Amen to
it
that. It's so
exists
true.
in your head, and so you get these hyper nerds focused on lighting controls who know everything about lighting controls, but that's because they can live in that theoretical world. The vast majority of people can't live in that theoretical world. They need to see things working. They need to understand, okay, this is connected to that, and this is the chain of events that happens. So having people in person putting their hands on the equipment is critical to being able to bridge that gap.
By the way, the chasm he was talking about, or the valley, that's a social media clip. That was awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. And there's people that will, and including me and Greg probably, that look at the lighting controls rebates, and we have some issues with the structure, how the rebates are structured, how they're going to market,
Sure.
and talking about the specifics and the ins and outs of winners and losers. And we talk a lot about that on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. But I would contend, if you just put on a different hat, who cares about that? What about your business? Can you sell lighting controls? Can you take advantage of these rebate programs? Are your people positioned to really be able to take advantage of rebate programs that are control centric? You got to go to
Yep.
Lightivation in June if you want to be able to do that. I'm telling, this is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
tell people.
Just from my side as a distributor, I look at it now a lot, and the rebates are still here and they're good to the point where you make, it covers the cost and then some a lot of times on the rebates that are being offered. And it's like, I question it a lot. Well, why wouldn't I do the control now? I'm kind of at that point on a lot of projects. It's like, you might as well, whether they use it or not, that's another story
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. But obviously to get the rebates, you need it to be used. That's supposed to be part of it. But it's one of those questions that comes up now, and is you might as well do it. And if they just don't want to
Right.
use them, turn them off for now, and then use
Well,
them in the future.
and the thing here with the lighting controls, if you already have it, why don't you use it mentality too? Because a lot of these systems, like for instance, Keystone system, are pretty much plug and play nowadays. There's very little uphill battle. The learning curve is so shallow for people to get into this now that it's kind of a no-brainer in a lot of ways. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, lighting controls were very complex and needed a lot of finesse. And that's not to say that there aren't lighting control systems out there that are really capable of doing advanced functionality. But when you look at just these rebate spaces, you're just doing one-to-one swaps of troffers, for instance. You have it baked into the fixture in a lot of cases. So why don't you just leverage that?
Well, it's interesting because the debate around controls in the new era now is kind of like who can make it super easy and all that. And I think what Nailed is saying is you can become the kind of person that does make it super easy for the users, for the end users,
Mhm.
by becoming very educated on multiple different industry control systems. I think it's MW Connect, RAB,
Toggled,
Toggled, and who's the other one?
max light.
Maxlight. So you're going to be exposed to the equipment of these particular controls manufacturers, and you're going to
Mhm.
learn the theory, and then you're going to see how these products work. That's what Webster was just talking about, was really the experience of the end user. And I think that's what you mean. And you want to make
Yeah.
people that know how to make that experience for the end user. Why wouldn't you use these controls? Look how beautifully they're set
Right.
up for you. You
Right.
know, I think that's where the industry wants to get. And if it can get there, then the promise of lighting controls would be delivered.
Absolutely. That is exactly the point. And that's why there's also a lot of initiatives around Triple LC because of the fact that it simplifies the system by putting a component with every single fixture. You don't need to think about power packs or relay panels or anything on top of the fixture. You just need to make sure that the fixture has the component installed inside of it, and then familiarize yourself with the app of how to program the control system. So the vast majority of systems nowadays, when you are looking at this tier of project, are, even from the installer's standpoint, very simple. But yes, from the end user standpoint, it's even more simplistic. It's like, I just want a button on the wall. Okay, here's your button on the wall. You don't need to really think about lighting controls. And that's kind of my phrase whenever I teach people about lighting controls
So
is
why would they
good
go to the
light.
course then?
Well, here's the thing. So, as much as I say that it's super easy to be able to just implement lighting controls, there are so many people who still push back and say, I don't do lighting controls. A lot of distributors, for instance, and that's why we're focusing on the distribution channel. And that's because there's still a procedure that needs to be followed if you want to make sure that it's a satisfied customer at the end of the day. You can't just throw lighting controls on a project and say, okay, we're done. You really need to make sure that if the end user is savvy enough and they know what they're talking about, that you're providing a solution that makes sense to them. And so we created sort of this 3-step process. You start with a designer, somebody who can take a look at the project, go to the site, look at a blank reflected ceiling plan or somebody, talk to the owner and say, what do you want for your lighting controls? And if the person says, I just want to meet rebates and I just want energy code minimum, stuff like that, okay, the designer's job is pretty straightforward. Tick all the boxes with energy code, tick all the boxes with the rebates, done. If they want something a little more elevated, great, then the designer can provide that too. Then they hand over their documentation to a distributor. So that's track 1, the specialist design track. Track 2 is the distribution track. So it's basically saying, how do you read existing documentation, create a bill of material, keep inventory, make the order, deliver it, within the time frame that the owner wants it to be delivered within. And then it's handed over to the third track, which is the installation track. Now, we're not teaching people to be in place of contractors. We're teaching people to support the contractors, because just as much as distributors say, I don't do controls, contractors are saying the same thing, and they're pushing away from this. And that's the point of this installer role, is to say, it's not that hard. Here's how you do it. You don't need to think about this, think about that. I will help with the programming and startup and everything. You just need to make sure that the fixtures go where they need to go and the devices are installed where they need to be installed. I'll take care of the rest. And that's the point. And on top of all of this, the distributors can charge for those services. These are not free services to offer. They expand their portfolio of services to provide to a project, to end users, to clients, by providing this opportunity of lighting controls that didn't exist before.
There's a member of Nailed, Greg, that if you're not an account customer of his, you know who I'm talking about. We're not going to say his name because I don't want to give him any pub. But he just had a baby though, so congratulations. I hope everything's healthy and happy down there. But if somebody comes into his counter and they're not an account customer, and they want they have to pay $25
Stuck.
just to talk to somebody.
Yeah. I
Right.
heard about this.
And it's like we were talking out here the other day. We had 4 customers come in, and they expect to be served right away. And they, da 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 da. And so we're thinking of implementing the same thing, because just figuring out what stuff is a service, right? And so I think distributors could start thinking about monetizing some of the services they offer in an environment that, like what appears to be a lot more complex than what Webster is saying it is. And the argument to come to the course is, come here and learn how simple lighting controls is, and you can learn how to design them, you can learn how to distribute them, and you can learn how to commission them or integrate them with your contractor customers. And so you can have like a support department in your company for lighting controls. And I just think it's a really good idea. And so when Webster's saying it's simple, I think it's simple when you know how to do it, Greg.
Yes.
Right, and to know how to do it, is to Webster's point, is to see it and actually practice with it. And the reason I know how to do that system is because I did it in the field for 30 hours, maybe more. I was gone classroom to classroom doing it, learning, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. And now I've got it down. So a course is a great starting point to actually physically do it. Like, let's physically do it now. Let's not just show it on a screen and explain it. No, you hit the button, you touch the fixture, you do this, you reset the sensor, you pair the switch, all that stuff. That makes it a lot easier to then be able to sell it.
Yeah, but
Explain
Greg,
it to
you're the
people.
host
Use
of
it.
the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast.
It doesn't
Okay,
matter.
you've been in lighting for 19 or 20 years. You're an
Yep.
LC. Okay, you have tons of experience in lighting. If you're listening to this, boy, you're not Greg Eric out there, okay? Don't get too crazy.
No,
You should be taking the controls course, okay?
oh yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
totally
you
telling you.
understand
Like,
what I mean? This is
or
what
you
I'm.
can, or you can spend 19 years and 30 hours in the field doing it.
Yeah,
Don't wait for that. Do it now. Go to
yeah,
court.
yeah. Like if you're in your second or third year in lighting, 5 years in lighting, 10 years in lighting, and you're looking to make the next move in your career, you want to make the next move. You want to be the guy that's got the Gucci suit on when he walks in the room. I'm certified, buddy. We're talking lighting controls. Who's the only one with a certification in the room? Right,
Right.
right. Okay,
And that's
good.
that's the next step with all of this is that we're going to have a list of certified groups that we can then point to. Hey,
Hmm.
you're looking for lighting controls? Pick one of these distributors, pick one of these designers. And that's the other thing is that this isn't just for distributors. While it's focused around distribution, anybody can take these classes. I've seen several colleagues
Of
actually sign up
course,
for the design track.
of course.
So
You're gonna have, like especially they used to be called ALA, but now the lighting group within NEMRA, the agents. This
mhm,
is beautiful for agents
yeah.
too. And even if you look at some electrical people that are in more electrical focus but have a big lighting business within their electrical distribution, they have maybe a branch. Each person at a branch is the lighting guy. Send your lighting guy. Send your lighting guy at your branch
Yeah.
to the lighting controls course. He doesn't need to be Greg Eric and have a podcast in 19 years selling light bulbs. You can get the certification now and learn this stuff now. Webster, I think I'm really excited about this. Is there anything else? I really think we covered it in the right way. I wanted to cover it here on Get a
Mhm.
Grip on Lighting. Make
No, and I
make
really
make the case.
appreciate you taking the
Yeah.
time to talk about this because we do want to extend this to as broad of an audience as possible. But the thing is, registration closes May 12th. So if anybody listening to this wants to hop on board to the inaugural version of this, definitely take advantage of it because we're already evaluating doing this again, but I can guarantee you the prices are going to be higher next time. So if you want to jump on it and get a lower cost registration, jump on it now.
So you go to nailed.org. I think it says training in the top corner. You click that and you click LS-C, and that'll get you to where you got to register for the course. What's the price now? You missed the early bird. Early bird's over, sucker.
Yep.
What do these guys
Early,
got to pay now?
early bird is over. We're now $5.99 for nailed members and $6.99 for non-nailed members.
Get down to Lightovation. What are the dates again? So May 13th is the
Yep.
first live online training session. You got a
Yes.
couple of those, and then when's the in person?
So the virtual is May 13th, May 20th, May 27th. These are all mandatory webinars that we need our attendees to attend. And then June 16th is the first in-person day at Lightovation, although it's going to be before Lightovation. But then June 16th, June 17th are the in-person days. They're going to be long days of a lot of information being thrown at you, really hard skills to learn, but
I
good
thought you said
stuff.
it was easy. I thought you said it was easy.
I said hard skills, not
Our
soft
skills,
skills.
not
We're not going to teach you the stuff that you get from these 1 hour, 2 hour seminars. We're going to actually push you to learn a lot about these systems, and you're going to be exposed to all four of these brands. But then on top of that, we're going to test you on June 18th. So May 13th, 20th, 27th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, then June 16th through 18th. Those are the dates that need to be kept in mind for this.
I think it's a good time to go to KeystoneTech.com. Greg Eric, that's KeyStonetech.com. The easy folks.
And talk about their smart loop system. That's a good way to do it. Go to the controls class and start selling this stuff because I'm telling you, you can do it. And when you sell it, you make more money. More money's good. And then you have future opportunities, as Webster said, where you can now charge for that service.
And if you got light bulbs in a warehouse, and if you sell them to other lighting companies, that makes you a Nailed vendor member. So you got to join Nailed as a vendor. And if you sell to contractors and commercial properties and stuff in institutions and hospitals, that makes you a Nailed member. And we are your crucial shield. So go to naild.org. And of course, I'll be in Vegas in a week or two here, Greg. Only Customs and Border Patrol Agency can stop me. Those guys are pretty
Not
tough,
me. I'll
though.
be there for sure.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye for now.